and welcome to Gardening with the Gardeners, a podcast where we discuss our favorite plants, gardens, landscape design, and all things horticulture, with just a touch of our crazy homestead lifestyle thrown in.
I'm one of your hosts, Matthew Boone Gardner, a horticulturalist, landscape designer, and fourth-generation owner-operator of Boone Gardner Landscape.
And I'm Hope Gardner, Matt's wife, a horticulturalist with our local county extension office, as well as a landscape designer with a family business. And together, we make up Gardening with the Gardeners.
All right, we're back. We seem to be back on schedule. We're
trying.
Close.
We're doing a little bit better.
Our goal is every week, but sometimes it's hard to do.
So this will be actually our 13th podcast.
Last Friday was Friday the 13th, and this is our 13th podcast.
Well, isn't that a coincidence? Yep. So today, what do you want to talk about?
Well, we're looking outside the window right now, and it's snowing.
The crazy thing is we are on that spring roller coaster of whether we're going to be in spring or in winter. So we hit, I think, 82 one day.
82 the other day, and I guess it's 20.
Now, when I was driving home, it was 29 degrees. I think we're supposed to get down to 18.
Yeah, we complain about it every year, and it is frustrating, but it's totally Kentucky. And people all get freaked out about their plants, and somehow everything always ends up working out. I mean, some plants may get burned. Some of the magnolias, they're blooming, especially if you're pushing it with some unique magnolia varieties or things like that. But
I had several calls today with people asking, what do I need to do for my plants?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I told them today was, the nice thing about Mother Nature is we go through this every single year.
Every single year.
So a lot of the plants that obviously not warm season plants, but all of the spring plants, they're kind of used to it.
They're
Daffodils
totally used to
are going to be okay.
Everybody freaks out. They're like, my daffodils are blooming. Yeah, they do it every year.
Yep.
They'll have snow on top of them. And
which makes for a really pretty picture.
Very unique, yeah.
But it's not what I want right now.
No.
I'm ready for sunshine.
It's frustrating, and it teases us because it was so warm and the sun was out and it felt so good. And
I've got little plants growing in the greenhouse and seeds are started, and I'm ready to move forward.
Well,
and then
bless your heart, you were scrambling.
Yeah, I brought everything in.
You were scrambling yesterday to bring all that back in the garage, and because we don't have heat in the new greenhouse just yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to leave some stuff out, and I thought I'll just bring the really tender stuff in. And then I was like, nope, with it getting down to 18, I'm bringing it all in.
We had some perennial seeds and stuff that had already broken and some other things you potted up that started breaking dormancy. So yeah. You were worried about leaving them out there and let them get burned.
Like I said, I'm ready for spring. Let's start planting.
Absolutely. Well, on that topic of spring, what's more spring around here than spring cleanups, especially for us in our landscape business.
You're doing a lot of that, or should be doing a lot of that.
Yeah, we're supposed to be doing it. Missing some work today, but yeah.
I think Mother Nature had another idea.
Yeah, but spring cleanups are kind of a rite of passage in the landscape world, and I mean everybody's across the nation, obviously, but especially in Louisville and getting ready for Derby and kind of pre-garden preparation, you always think of that. And so we thought we'd just kind of go through the standard checklist of stuff that we do that obviously if you want to, you can always hire a service like us or somebody else, or you can just do it yourself. Yeah, if you have the time and the energy, there's nothing wrong with it, and it can be a fun, rewarding thing to do.
Can I be the first one to sign up for us to do it this year? Not us being personal, but the business.
You always say.
Yeah. No, I actually do. I like doing the spring cleanups because it really does. It kind of helps me with that. I get real anxious for spring and I'm ready to get out there. And this is kind of, instead of doing a lot of planting before it's time, getting out there and really prepping the beds, making sure that everything is ready, doing it the proper way. It does make me, feel like I'm doing something productive.
Yes.
I get a little dirt under my nails, and I'm okay with that.
And it's rewarding. I mean,
yes.
It's like it's funny whenever you get new employees who start with you and have not had much landscape experience. They get a kick and see the fruition of a job well done when you clean up everything, and you put your fresh mulch on there, and you edge the beds, and everything looks really nice. It's like, oh wow, it's like when you paint a wall, you see the fruits of your labor instantaneously. So it's
Well,
nice.
and I think a lot of people think about fall cleanup because we have leaves that fall, and then you got to, take care of those. But I think spring cleanup is just as important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that, I mean, one of the first things I just, and the title itself, a cleanup. So you want to go through. Obviously, there's already things. We've had enough warm temperatures already. Weeds are starting to germinate and show up in beds. I mean, it did not take any time at all for the
No.
weeds to start germinating and
Well,
popping up.
and we've got two different types of weeds. We've got cool
Cool
season
season,
weeds
yep,
and warm season weeds.
absolutely.
And so the cold or cool season weeds, they've already, I mean,
They're
we
done.
hit some good temperatures and they're ready to go.
So you want to go through and obviously groom the beds, clean all those out. This is a time to think about cutting back any perennials that you didn't cut back. Obviously, some people like a tidy garden and cut their perennials back late fall, early winter. A lot of times we like to leave a lot of ours up, for the seed heads and the foliage for various, critters and birds to either use as habitat or
Or feed with
feed.
seeds.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to cut all those back and clean them up. Like the guys were at a really good client of ours the other day. She's got beautiful hellebores out front. We've been taking care of for years. And the hellebores, it's funny because when you first go out, now they've all of a sudden shot up and they got all this beautiful new growth. They're blooming. But then around that base is all that old nasty foliage, and it looks horrible because it's all the old
It
burned
does.
foliage. But once you cut that away, it's like, oh wow, there's the beautiful plant already up. And that's kind of a perfect example of the perennial that's already jumping and ready to go because it's a cool season early bloomer. The Lenten rose, it's we're in Lent and so it's blooming, and it's easy to get in there and mulch around them before they start flopping back over again because the growth is still kind of standing up nicely.
Yes. And we've got quite a few hellebores here growing that are blooming.
I love the hellebores. I just cannot get enough of that plant.
Yes. So I think once you get, the leaves from the fall that have, kind of fallen throughout the winter, get those cleaned up, get the weeds pulled back.
Get your sticks and all the winter debris that's fallen down,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, any other leaves, sticks, any kind of mess cleaned up. It's nice because, like I said, we were cutting back those perennials, getting those cleaned up. It's an easy time to get into the garden and actually work around a lot of those because you can actually either step around them or not worry about
The new foliage coming up.
yeah.
But this is a great time to go ahead and start thinking about, do you want to do a pre-emergent on those beds to help keep weeds down? Everybody always asks me, how to get rid of weeds. And I'm like, get them before they start.
Yeah.
And this is the time to go ahead and start thinking about, we said that the cool season weeds are already up, but once we hit, some higher temperatures for a longer period of time, those are going to naturally die. And then our warm seasons are going to start to germinate. Well, go ahead and get that pre-emergent down to help keep those from germinating. Keep, pre-emergent. So you're going to put it down before they emerge because once those seeds emerge, there's nothing you can do but, pull them yourself. But get that pre-emergent down.
Yeah, and a lot of times what we'll do is we'll get the beds cleaned up, put that pre-emergent down before we put the mulch on. And then that helps keep those weed seeds that are present from germinating. And like we've talked about before, if you're able to keep on top of your gardens and your beds and keep them clean, you'll actually build up some resistance because you'll actually start getting that seed bank and those populations of weed seed down, which we've
Yeah,
had
we're
trouble with that in our
fighting
own yard because we get behind sometimes. And but it's like on the properties we were able to really stay on top of it, do a pre-emergent. Obviously, the homeowners' most go-to pre-emergent is Preen, very popular product. There's commercial varieties available
And I
that we
think
use.
don't most of those they on the label they'll say that they'll last for about 6 months.
It depends on it depends 3 to 4 6 months. It depends on
Yeah, so read the label and see. And I'm just stating, and I want this might not be the correct way, but I would probably say it's okay to put another like a second
Oh, sure.
application to maybe overlap a little bit because you don't want that product is only going to last a certain amount of time. And if you wait too long, then you leave that window for those seeds to go ahead and germinate. So you want to do a little bit of an overlap. So don't think it's a one and done.
Yes.
Our growing season is longer than just that, 4 to 6 months. So do it early and then do it again maybe, midsummer, late summer so that it continues all the way through the fall.
That does help. And there's other products if you don't want to use, you don't have to use chemical pre-emergents. They just help give you a head start.
Yes. I think corn gluten.
Yeah, we had that product at the old garden center. It was like, and it actually did okay. I mean, it
It
wasn't.
did.
I don't think it was as effective as chemicals probably, but it
Well,
wasn't. It was better than nothing. Let's put it that way.
yes,
I mean, it certainly helped.
it may not be 100%, but even if it's 60%, that's a whole lot better than not putting anything down at all.
Absolutely, and obviously the number one way to really keep weeds from germinating, or at least to hinder that, and keep your beds clean is mulch. And we'll come back to mulch in a second. One thing I'll talk about too is that people always ask if we do weed fabric, landscape fabric, and you're shaking your head. I'm like, you and I do not like it, and you can chime
Okay,
in
there's
at
a
any
time
point.
and a place for everything.
Yeah, and that's what I say.
Never say never, but in my
It's
landscape plant beds, when I'm putting additional plants in, whether it's something that I'm going to plant one time and then it's going to grow larger and larger, it's going to outgrow the space that we have cut in the landscape fabric. Or if it's an annual and I'm cutting a hole in the fabric to plant my annual, that hole is always there even after I take the annuals out. So that's why I'm like, I don't want.
that's number one reason for most time, and especially for you because you're a serious gardener. And I think any of our clients that like to actually get in there and do other work or plant other plants, or they want a garden that spreads and let those plants fill in and
Breathe.
develop, you do not want to do weed fabric. And honestly, if you have pets, that's another reason, because dogs always end up pulling it up. It always ends up coming up anyways. Like what happens is weed seed is going to blow in from a neighbor's yard or even your own yard. It's going to blow into the bed, and that weed seed is going to germinate in your organic matter on top. So your mulch is your organic matter. So the weed seed germinates, you pull it, then you get pulling the weed fabric, and everything comes up. It's a bloody mess. Or the dog gets in there. I've seen plenty of people's dogs that get in there and tear up the weed
They
mat.
dig. They get down past the mulch into the weed fabric, and then that's something for them to chew on or play with or dig up. And
so like if you're using organic mulch, it really is not. I mean, it does help with any weeds that are present in the ground there already, or any weed seed that's in that soil bank, then sure, it's going to help with that. But it is we personally think the drawbacks outweigh the positives.
Yes.
Now, the one place I will use it is we've got more clients kind of switching over, which this can be it can be quite lovely and effective if you want a really low maintenance landscape, whereas you use like a gravel rock mulch, like a river gravel or pea gravel or whatever it is, instead of your organic, hardwood pine straw, pine nugget mulch. And obviously those are organic materials, but they don't, weed seeds can't germinate in them. So then you put the weed fabric down, put the gravel on top. That is a great situation because you're going to leave that rock there. It's going to keep that rock from settling in and actually make your rock last a lot longer. Whereas if you just put rock on bare soil, it'll end up being eaten by the ground over time.
Yeah, the soil comes up through the little crevices, and then the rock will actually sink down into the mud.
Exactly, and disappear on you. And that's the number one mistake that people make when doing their own hardscapes. So if they're putting in their own little pathway with stepping stones or gravels or whatever, bricks, pavers, they forget to put in the landscape fabric. That is the critical thing to do to help keep that material from sinking.
And can I add something onto that?
Please do.
So if you're going to do a mulch, like a gravel mulch in a bed, and you've got lawn on the other side, I'm not in favor of the plastic edging, but you do need something that's going to hold that gravel in place. Because otherwise, whether it's your dog, whether it's, the little critters, somebody's going to start kicking that gravel out into the lawn.
And then you're hitting it with a mower.
And you're hitting it with the mower, yeah. And a mower can shoot
rocks. Absolutely.
So you have to be careful. So make sure that you've got something, whether it's like a metal edging or another like stone of some type that's larger.
Mm-hmm. We'll use cobblestones.
Yes.
Cobblestone edging is beautiful. It's expensive. Steel edging is wonderful, and now we have the aluminum steel edging, which is real easy to work with, a little lighter. They're a little costly at first, but they last for a really long time. Whereas that plastic edging,
it pops up.
It pops up. It doesn't look good. You hit it with a mower, you cut it. It's not the prettiest.
So it's an investment.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people forget how much of an investment their landscape can be. But if it's done right, it can last for a really, really
Oh
long
my
time.
gosh! Yeah, I mean, the average landscape that I mean, a lot of times we'll come back and renovate is like been there for 30 years. And so if you
Yes.
think about your return on investment, when you start thinking about like, oh, that tree seems so expensive, or that bush, why is that boxwood so much? It's like you're going to get 30 years, maybe more, 50. I mean, it depends on how you take care
Yeah,
of it. I mean,
you're exactly right. So that's why it's so important that I think that we talk about, spring cleanups is just that maintenance part of, and maintaining that investment.
yeah. And so what I was going to mention this later, but while you're talking about edging, so we talked about the aluminum, steel, plastic edging, the cobblestones. A lot of times, our most popular edging for when you were doing just a normal spring cleanup, or even a lot of our beds and gardens around here, is just that clean spaded edge.
Well, when you're using a mulch,
Yeah, organic
that's
mulch.
definitely, a lot of people don't, I guess, know or that haven't done an edging. They think you just throw the mulch right up to the grass and then you're done.
Yeah.
Um, but no, that crisp edging, I think, really does set a landscape
Oh,
off.
it looks great. It really sets it off. Gets you clean lines and get your clean arcs going. And
And it's an art form. I mean, you can
oh
really
yeah,
tell when somebody knows how to edge a bed correctly. Um,
yeah, absolutely. I love the hand spade edge. There's some commercial edgers out there now. Even home, I think I've even some weed eater attachments for the average homeowner. Some of those edgers have gotten pretty good too. That you
mhm.
can just it kind of stirs it up, does a little cuts it up, and
Well, once you get that edge on the
you
bed,
can maintain it.
yeah, you can maintain it with the weed eater.
Hmm.
Just kind of tilt it up on its side and just go right along the edge, and it keeps that grass out of the bed a lot better.
Yep.
And it, like I said, it's a very crisp, natural, really pretty edge to your landscape beds.
So we talked about the cleaning the beds, weeding, edging. Obviously, we talked about cutting back perennials, cut back any ground covers that may look bad right now. It's better to try to wait for the temperatures to get consistently. What do they say, 50 degrees, I think. But a lot of times we have to just go and do our cleanups, period, because we're just got so many of them. We're hitting them. But um,
Well, we've definitely hit 80, so
oh
it's
yeah,
that consistency that gets
consistency.
you.
It's hard because it's
But
up and down.
yeah,
But like we're cutting back larapi now, and if you've got a lot of larapi that you're trying to cut back, don't be afraid to get in there and really hack at it. And what I mean by hack at it is obviously it's great to go in there and hand prune it and grab it like a little piece of hair and do a little haircut by hand with your pruners or your shears.
I
But
don't have time for
I
that.
know. And
Sorry.
so, and we've got some clients where we've planted like almost larapi lawns or big banks of it, or like some of these properties along Cherokee Parkway they use for drainage and erosion control.
Hmm.
And I'll just have the guys go in there with a weed eater and just cut it back, not scalp it, leave a little bit of, a couple, an inch or two or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2 to 3
Yeah.
inches.
And cut it back, and it'll pop right back up and look so much better because of that, cutting back that old foliage.
Well, and whether it's laripe or even any of your ornamental grasses, you really do want to do that before that new growth starts to push up.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. That's a great point. Yeah, your ornamental grasses, if you have not cut those back yet, go ahead and cut those back. Just not all the way to the ground, but leave maybe. It depends on the variety, but
Yeah, I was gonna say it depends on if the height of it. You're gonna do, if it's a really tall grass, you may leave a little bit
you
more
may leave as
height
much as a
to
foot.
it.
Yeah, sometimes you may go to the 3 inches or so, or
Yeah,
it just
something with
depends.
laripe, you're gonna go down to 3 inches.
Yeah.
So
While we're talking about cutting back those perennials and cutting back your ground covers as far as larapi and things like that. And by the way, we're saying larapi. That's some people say lariopie. Some people say
monkey grass.
monkey grass is a common name. It's a lot of times people, I don't know if it's kind of a southern thing to say lariopie or larapi or I don't know.
It's potatoes.
Yeah, it's the clematis version. So some people will say, "What is that?" And I'll show them a picture. Oh, yeah, everybody knows what it is once they see a picture of it. Um, Also, it's a great time to divide perennials because you actually can get in there and see those crowns,
Yes.
and so you're able to dig some of those up. So, like larapi, if you got a hole somewhere you need to fill in a border or something like that, it's a great time to take your spade, pop it up, slice it, divide it, replant it. Same thing with the ornamental grasses. It's a great time to do that. If your ornamental grasses, especially some of your bigger miscanthus or bigger varieties, if those crowns start to kind of rot out over time in the center and die out,
Yeah.
it's a good time to get in there and cut that dead part out, and you can kind of reconfigure your clump and kind of bring it back together and make it nice and clean and manageable, so you don't have that dead hole in the middle.
And they do start kind of dying out in that center, and that's when you know that it's time that they need to be divided to have more room
Hmm.
individually.
Yes.
And one of the things that I love about gardening is that I think gardeners are usually very, very happy to share. So if there's something that you have that needs to be divided and you don't
Yes.
have room for it, share it with a neighbor, and they may have something to share with you.
Absolutely. It's a great time to do it. People love,
You can make a lot of friends that way.
gardeners do like to share. It's fun how everybody likes to share plants, and it's fun to have stories about where you get those plants from. Because we'll be
It
able to walk
is.
around the yard like, oh, we got this from blah blah blah, or this one came from this or that.
Yes.
Another part of the cleanup is pruning.
That is actually a really important part of the prune up. Important part of the
Prune up.
cleanup
The prune
is
up.
to prune up your plants.
Yes, I like it.
So this is the time of year, we're going to start seeing some bud growth. You're going to start seeing what branches maybe didn't survive over the winter or during a winter storm, maybe broke. Need a good, clean, fresh cut on that.
Yes, clean cut's important.
It is, and so in order to get a clean cut, you also need to have sharp tools.
You love talking about
I
this.
love talking about sharp tools because really you do more damage with a dull tool then you want a good clean cut, and with a dull
Instead of
tool
that
you can't.
splintered, nasty
Yes,
cut that
and
can't
you
heal properly.
well, and you don't want to rip the bark like down the tree branch, um, because that's a damage, and that leaves it open for other
Pest and
diseases,
disease.
wounds, pests, all that stuff. So you want a good clean cut.
Absolutely, and it's sharpening tools too. I mean, it helps with, like we talked about, edging beds. If you're doing that that spaded edge, you want a sharp spade.
Yeah, it'll make so much. Whether it's the edge or digging a hole
Or
to
dividing your
plant,
plant.
yeah. Anytime you dig, if you have a sharp tool, it's like a kitchen knife. If you have a dull kitchen knife, you're not going to cut anything. And people don't realize that it's the same principle with your garden tools.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, some of the things that you do want to remember, though, is if you have plants that bloom in the spring, like your crab apples, your forsythias that have already started blooming, but viburnums, wisteria, things like that, you don't want to.
Azaleas.
Your azaleas, exactly. You don't want to prune those in the spring because all you're doing is pruning off the flowers.
Yeah, you're going to cut those blooms off. You want to make sure you can see those.
Yes. So prune those right after the plant flowers. But pretty much with everything else, even your evergreens, go ahead and trim those. Your evergreens are gonna,
Maybe a
keep
light,
nice, yeah. But you can keep your shape to them.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the great hydrangea debate.
Oh, the hydrangeas.
So I
Yes.
think hydrangeas are always a question mark for a lot of people as far as how to prune them, when to prune them, what do I do, and there's so many different varieties. With most of the landscape hydrangeas now, the things like so ones that you would want to prune now are like your smooth arborescens types. So like your Annabelles. We have this massive, massive bed of Annabelle hydrangeas in our front yard. It's awesome. But Hope had this wonderful design that she did years ago with very thought out perennials, and some the Annabelles have slowly taken over the whole bed. It's driving you crazy, but I think you're like, maybe I'll just give up on this and move these guys.
It's just I'm taking all the perennials out, and I'm just gonna let it be an Annabelle bed.
Although I do like the peonies still in there.
They
Like-
might move.
They might. Well, it's just nice to walk out there and see them because they're coming
It
up
is.
right now. And, yeah.
They are. They are. And the best time to move those is in the fall, but I might have to break a rule. We're gonna wait and see.
Yeah.
But
But those are all Annabelles.
yes.
And we get in there and we aggressively, in fact, we've already cut them back. We cut them back about I guess the guys had a free time. We did about a month ago, I think. So you could cut those back either late fall, early spring.
I have to say I do like leaving them up through the winter because, as those heads dry, it does give some nice
Our heads
structure.
lasted too, because
they did.
sometimes they flop over. This winter they stayed up really nicely, and it was kind of pretty, especially in the snow and stuff. And so we just cut those back, and so the Annabelles and those kind of arborescens, you can cut those back aggressively. I mean, we leave about, I don't know, I guess we left maybe
6.
yeah,
6
but you can. I mean,
inches.
I know in the past sometimes we've gone to the ground. It just depends. It's best to leave a little bit probably, but those grow, especially as they get established, they grow so aggressively.
Now, what about those rebloomers, like the endless summers and the twist and shouts and all of those?
So a lot of those, I would say, I like to kind of just maybe cut off the dead heads and leave those, but those were mountain or reblooming types. they're a little more forgiving than the old-fashioned mop head hydrangeas like Nico Blue or some of the big like old-fashioned varieties. Whereas those bloom on old wood, and that's where it gets confusing because you have to let that nuke. So if you're ever in question on those bigger varieties like that, I would just cut the heads off for now and leave them. Now on your what's real popular is these panicle types. So like limelight, little limelight, little lime, those can be pruned back now and you will not hurt them because they're more of a summer bloomer. And so if you want to get them in shape now, like our little limes, we trimmed back probably, we didn't take them all the way to the ground or like that, but we just kind of cleaned them up and left maybe a little 12-inch kind of crown, kind of almost like you would a rose, kind of back, clean out any kind of bad dead wood or things crossing over. And
Okay, I'm going to ask you another one. What about your oak leaves? Because those are different.
oak leaves I would put in kind of the category of your big leaf hydrangeas, and I would trim those after they bloom. So I'd probably wait, if we have to out of necessity. I mean, again, there's a lot of times we'll break the rules, especially as a landscape company, because sometimes they're trying to make sure, get things to fit a certain area. So if we have to, we'll cut them back, but we've probably have already cut them back before now, and so we'll just leave them alone usually.
Because we've got oak leaves at several different areas of on the farm here. And I have to say, I'm telling the guys, don't cut the oak leaves because I want them to get big.
Yeah.
That's one that I would love to have almost as a screening plant because I want them really, really, really big. And so I don't cut my oak leaves back.
Yeah.
The other ones are, let's go ahead and get those trimmed up, make them look really nice. But I will admit that I don't prune my oak leaves.
Yeah. And it's funny because there's some spring bloomers that are kind of forgiving, like spirea and things like that. Ideally, you would have cut them back before now, but if you haven't and it still has that old dead growth coming out, and so a lot of times you'll have the new growth coming out down low and the dead shoots on top, at least cut that, give it a haircut and cut that dead stuff off. And even if you cut into the plant a little bit, spirea is so forgiving that they'll still usually bloom out and not be a problem.
And I guess I
Isn't
should
that kind
say,
of your experience too?
yes.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I did say my oak leaves, and they're actually our oak leaves. I just take
You get carried away.
I do.
You do get carried away.
I think all the plants are mine, but actually you're the one that usually plants them for me, so they're yours.
So hopefully that makes sense about pruning. Kind of do just kind of light cleanup and things like that. And like Hope said, watch to make sure it's not a spring bloom where you're cutting those blooms off that you could enjoy. So
yes. And I think this is also a good time. And I know that we say this at the very end of the podcast, but if you don't listen to the very, very end, you can always send us an email with any questions that you have. And we'll be happy to answer those, whether it's just directly to you or maybe we'll include it in the next podcast. So we're here to help. And so, go ahead and send us an email.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And then what I always tell people too is don't sweat it too much. If you're ever in question about when to prune something, it's always just say after it blooms. I mean, that's kind of that. You can just that's always a great go-to for pretty much anything. That'll always work.
It is.
So if you're always in question, or if there's seed heads on there and you're going to the spring, you can cut those off. So I mean, always you can, even if there's new growth you're trying to do, an old growth or whatever, you still can at least cut off the seed heads that look bad or the dead growth.
Just kind of get a little trim up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what else do we have to do for
I was
our?
gonna say something else. I forgot. I keep forgetting good points. Is this good?
Mm-hmm.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was going to say something else. So we talked about seed heads and blah 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 blah, cutting back. What was I going to say? It was a good point. Daggone it.
That's why you have a pen in your hand and you write it down.
Well, I know, but I was because we were talking about how don't get freaked out about it. Blah 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 blah. Oh, and along those lines too is something I always try, because clients always ask me like, well, do I have to prune this plant, or what do I have to do to this plant? I was like, you don't have to prune anything. I mean, it helps promote health and cleaning out and things like that. But a lot of times you don't have to. So a lot of these bloomers and these shrubs and things, if you're fine with the size of it, most of the time your pruning is going to be more of a facilitation of size, I think, don't you? Like, because don't you get that question? Like people say, what do I have to do? I'm like, well, you don't have to do anything, because then,
So I think as humans, we try to control and manipulate.
Yeah.
And in a lot of gardens, yes, they're very structured. They're very formal. And we want to control them. Mm-hmm. Mother Nature has done a really, really good job with plants in general. And she actually knows, or whomever you believe in, Mother Nature. Um, Plants can take care of themselves. They're pretty hardy if you put them in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
When we say, prune this or trim this back or maintain this, that's usually our human nature to control things.
Yes.
Don't sweat it. Enjoy it.
Exactly. Exactly. So I guess that's, and then finally, obviously, is the mulching.
Yes.
And the reason we love spring cleanups is that it's, you've gone in there, you've cleaned up everything. A lot of the plants are not even fully leafed out yet, or like I said, the perennials aren't up yet. So it's easy to get in there and mulch things and mulch around the actual plants. Because if you wait till later on, sometimes it's hard. I mean, we do it year round, obviously, depending on the project and things like that. But mulching in a fully leafed out garden that's blooming is a lot harder to do than one that's just coming out of dormancy and kind of easy to get around and maneuver.
Yes.
And
Well, and because after the plant has leafed out, it's almost like you have to take one hand to hold the branch up and the other hand to get the mulch in underneath it, and it's almost like playing a game of Twister.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So if you do it beforehand, it's a little bit easier. One thing with mulching that I'll say is you got to really be careful with the crown or the base of that plant. Don't put your mulch up too high on the bark of the tree, on the trunk. You want to pull it out about,
a little bit.
yeah, an inch or two away. Especially like with shrubs also, don't put it right up in the center of the crown of that shrub. And if you know where those perennials are, do it a little bit lighter on top.
You can put some on top, but not just heaped up. Yeah.
Yeah, really you want to do it around where the width of that shrub is going to be.
Exactly.
What about spring fertilization? What I have always done is when I'm fertilizing, I'll do a light spring fertilizer on my beds. Usually I'll do kind of a like an Osmocote, which is a slow release fertilizer. So I know that it goes. It's not just a one and done. It's you put it in and it slowly releases that fertilizer for the plants in that landscape bed throughout a multiple months or through the season. With my lawn area, I really want to hold off on fertilizing the lawn until I know that I've got good growth. There's no point in putting it out there if the plant's not going to be able to use it. So really hold off on your lawn fertilizer until you start seeing some growth on that lawn. Go ahead and do your beds. You can do a slow release fertilizer, either right, underneath the mulch or, on top of the mulch as you're doing your spring cleanup.
One thing we really like to do for a lot of our clients is use Hollytone.
Hollytone is a great product.
Yeah, and so especially in Kentucky, whereas our soils tend to be more alkaline with the limestone.
Yes.
And so with all of our evergreens, your boxwoods, your azaleas, your magnolias, your laurels, skip laurels, autoleucans, on and on and on, hollies, those all like acid. And pines and the other
That's
conifers.
why it's called Hollytone.
Yeah.
It's for all of your broadleaf evergreens.
And it's a real low number, and it just helps acidify gently the soil. And we always put those on a lot of times this time of year too. We'll do it several times for if need be, but it kind of helps get those evergreens a start and a little extra bump coming out of the winter, because a lot of times your evergreens have gotten. I mean, we've had some this year. They'll hit hard from the winter.
Yes.
And we'll get plenty of calls like, oh, my laurel, this that's dead, or my box was dead, or whatever. And a lot of times it just needs to flush out new growth, and it'll look a lot better.
Well, we were walking around the yard this weekend, and we were looking up in a shade garden that I have in the front yard that has a beautiful acuba, and the top has gotten burned from the wind.
Acuba looks rough.
The bottom still is green, and it's actually green and gold, but it looks healthy on the bottom, but where that winter wind has come through, it's burned the top. And so I know that those leaves are going to fall off. I'm not stressing about it because with the bottom that looks so healthy, it's going to flush new growth.
It will, and it'll look like $1 million. And even we've got a magnolia, a little gem magnolia. That poor thing.
It gets hit every year.
I know, it's just we probably put it in the wrong place. We're trying to push it, but it's totally brown. I mean, totally. But it does have bud set. We saw both leaf buds and flower buds coming out of this thing, and so it's probably going to do what I tell a lot of clients. Especially that first. This one is not. We don't have the excuse of being first year, but a lot of times we'll plant things. I've got a client we just did a bunch of laurels for, and they're burnt, but they have bud set. And you'll see that bud set. And so what's going to happen is those temperatures warm up. They'll flush out the new growth. That'll help them drop those old leaves, and you'll have a brand new plant, really.
really the way I look at it is that new growth has to, like, all that energy for the plant, it comes up from the roots and it goes up the stem and it hits those new buds, and then it kind of pushes all of that dead leaf and material
Allows
off.
it to senesce and break those bonds.
Yes.
Yeah, with the stems and stuff.
Yeah. So it's not going to drop immediately, but once you start seeing that bud swell, you know it's getting closer to dropping all that dead off. It has to drop that dead just to make, more room for the new growth that it's going to produce.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's a good one too.
So that's a quick little primer on spring cleanups and kind of what we try to watch for and look for and what we do and what you can do yourself in your yard.
But really get out there and start looking at it, because it's so exciting when spring comes around. You can see the new buds.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can see, all these really fun things that it's kind of opening up, getting ready for new growth. I think that's about everything. If the makers of Hollytone wants to come and sponsor us for dropping their name, hey, we're open to that too. But no, it is a great product. There's a lot of things out there, that we like and we want to share with you.
Thank you for listening to Gardening with the Gardeners. Please subscribe or follow to get new episode updates, and please help us get the word out about our new podcast by dropping a rating or review.
If you have any questions on landscape gardening or anything that we've talked about in the episode today, please send us an email to gwtg@boonegardner.com. That's Gardening with the Gardeners, GWTG.
And don't forget,
Gardeners has an I.
Yes,
So it's-
Gardiner.
Yes. So thank you for listening to Gardening with the Gardeners, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye, y'all.